Hi, my name is Amber. Welcome back to my channel, Books and Beaches. So today I am totally channeling well, I don't want to call it a sassy bun because I think that's not a YouTube creator, but like my messy bun era, a la Chloe at Always Booked. So thanks for joining me on that journey. Chloe, I gotta tell you, I love when your hair is in a bun. It's so cute. And I know you're always just telling us you like threw it up, but whatever. But I am sitting here doing some work from home today and realized I still hadn't filmed my July wrap-up video. So I thought I would sit down and get that filmed for all of you today. So because I read so many good books in the month of July, and I know some of them I talked about in like my Read Like Lindsay from Lindsay's Kindle, Lindsay's Little Library, and like my camping vlog. I have one that's like in the process of being filmed because, you know, clips are just everywhere. But I figured I would do, slightly, formal sit down here and just talk about all of the books I finished, even if I had already talked about them there. So let's jump in and get started. So July, in my opinion, was a pretty good reading month. I've got my iPad sitting here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So, I mean, not like crazy numbers by any means, but for me, this year, this was a really good number. I'm like no longer hitting those like 10 plus reading months anymore. And I've noticed that in like the past like year or two, I'm just not hitting those numbers, and that's totally fine. So, to start us off here, and of course, I think I have this book down here. I cannot remember if I talked about this book in my June wrap-up or not, because technically I think I finished it on July 1st, and that was Say You'll Remember Me by Jimenez. Now, this book is getting a lot of hype, and I want to say after reading this, I am completely caught up on all of her books, including like all the short stories. Now, I liked this one. We have a couple that is basically long distance, their entire relationship, because they meet while our main character is in Minnesota, which is where she lives. Our female main character, I should probably remember her name. Let's see. Samantha and Xavier. I think they call him Xavier in the audiobook, but anyways, he is a vet. She was living in Minnesota. She ends up having to move to California to help take care of her mom, who I believe, is it Alzheimer's? So like any other Abby book, this deals with a lot of heavy topics. It's really good about, having discussions between two grown adult individuals and not always just assuming things. And so I'm looking at my Fable account right now. I rated it a 3.75 because I think in comparison to a lot of the other Abby books that I've read, I liked it, because I always say this, 3 is never like a bad number, but I just think I liked other ones more. So I would skirt between that like 3.75 and that 4-star. Just because like last summer, just for the summer, her release, that one like, blew me out of the water. So, yeah, like I said, she did a good job with this. I love this edition. I've showed this before, but it's like beautiful. And it's not that I wouldn't recommend it. And I know a lot of people absolutely loved it. So that's just my opinion. Take it with a grain of salt. After that, I read our book for, well, it must have been our July book club. And that was The Lion Women of Tehran. I'm not going to pronounce it right. But this is why I love our book club, because it does force me to, read books that I wouldn't necessarily pick up otherwise. Now, I do realize this one was a book of the month choice, I think, at one point, and probably pretty well talked about, but I just hadn't, ever picked it up. And now it was very timely, especially with everything going on in Iran, like currently, or like around the time that we were, reading this. And so we have 2 women, and we're kind of getting flashbacks between different time periods. They met when they were very, very young and became very close friends. And, the mother of the one girl did not want her daughter hanging out with this other girl because, she was considered, more low class, poor, but admits that they formed this really great relationship. And we are seeing their lives kind of unfold throughout many different years. And in the very current timeline, one of the women who has moved to New York gets a call from this friend, and they had been kind of estranged, asking for help. And so I don't want to go into too much more detail than that. There was a lot of history told throughout this book, which I think is the primary reason for this, as well as, that adult friendship and relationships and how things change. But I think it was super interesting to see, how Iran has changed over the years, especially when it comes to how they treat women. And so I gave this one a 3.5. And like I said, that's not a bad rating, because I found it very informative. I just didn't find myself necessarily connecting with the story either. But I am really glad that we choose things like this for book club, because it does push me out of that comfort zone a little bit. After that, I picked up an arc. Yes, I had it as an arc. This was Parents' Weekend by Alex Finlay. And I must have finished this just before I gave Lindsay my Kindle, because then I went to bed otherwise. I have read everything that he has written. And in this particular case, we had a group of parents that are going to, I believe it's a smaller college, I want to say it's in California, for their children's Parents' Weekend, obviously, title of the book, in college. And this group of kids, most of them live right within the same dorm of each other, and the parents show up this night and the kids are gone. And so we are kind of going back and forth between, different timelines and things that are happening, and how all of these people are connected. Not only the parents, but the students, and how all the students are, connected and know each other, not that just because they live together. There has already been a murder on campus, and then all of these students go missing. So you are truly trying to figure out what's going on. I really like Alex Finlay's writing. I enjoyed this one. I gave it a 4. I definitely think it took some twists and things that I didn't see. He's very, very good about kind of leading you in one direction and really believing that that's the direction that the story is going to go. And then, kind of just completely blows you out of the water. So I don't want to say too much about it, because like I say in a lot of my, new release videos, I don't want to spoil anything for you by telling you too much, but I did really enjoy that one. Now another book. I loved this book. So this was another arc that I had, and this was Sunny Side Up by Katie Sturino. And I distinctly remember talking about this book when I was talking about the new releases, because I think it came out, let me just double check here. I know it was released in 2025, and so it must have either been a June or July release. And I said, oh my gosh, this sounds like a book that I need to read, because the main character seems like she's kind of living my life. And I say kind of because after I got into the story. But we have a main character. She's a plus-size woman who, has always dealt with, life being plus size, and not that I've dealt with that my whole life, but a lot of my adult life. And she was trying to find a date to her brother's wedding, which was my scenario, back a few months ago. And I just ended up relating to this book so much. Now, our main character she runs a PR firm in New York. So a lot of that I can't, necessarily relate to, but I liked, seeing that world and the different, aspects that she gets into and things that she does in New York, and the descriptions of the neighborhoods and stores and all of that. There's definitely some spice in this one. There are some detailed hookup scenes, I would say. But for some reason, a lot of times those make me cringe, just because I'm like, not that I need a closed door, but I don't know, sometimes it just make me cringe. This one, I liked them. She was kind of battling back and forth between two men, all the while trying to, really figure herself out. She gets to design a swimwear line, which anybody that shops for swimsuits, I'm sure it's a nightmare, but especially in the plus size realm. And so you had these multi-layered pieces of this story kind of coming together. And I really, really liked it. I gave it a 4.5. It wasn't knock it out of the park for a 5, but it was really close. And there were parts obviously that I just really related to, and that is why I feel like so strongly about this book. So I do believe this is like her fiction debut. I think I can't remember what Katie Sturino has worked on before, but I really highly suggest this one if you think you can connect, to some of those key features. After that, I did talk about this book in I think my first camping vlog that I released, and because this one wouldn't be in the clips that I haven't released yet, and that was The House in the Pines, and this is by Reyes. Now, this was a book that I selected off of Lindsay's Kindle, and I even think I have a copy of it back here on my shelves. I don't want to dig for it right now, so I'll put the cover here. But this one definitely fell flat for me, and I'm looking at it, I gave it a 2.75, which is a very low rating for me for sure. But I think I just expected more. And I think it was one of those books where it was a total cover buy for me. Like, it looked like it should be, something creepy and, thrillery. And I probably ignored like the descriptions of it. So, that is for sure on me, and I'm just trying to look into this once, but it's not that great of ratings. And I'm just, and it's sad because I don't even remember a lot about this book. And so I'm sure right after I finish it in that last vlog, I'll link it below, I'm sure I talk about it more, but now that I'm looking at this, yeah, I don't remember a lot about it. So, which is sad because I literally just read it like 2 weeks ago. But that just kind of tells you it fell flat, and that could be on me because I don't think it was as much of a thriller as I expected it to. Oh yeah, there was Guatemalan aspects, and then she was like looking for some people, and she has like the secret addiction. It was a lot. So I am doing a terrible, terrible job at trying to talk about it, but I do talk about it more in my vlog there. So there's that one. Now, one that I know I have clips of talking about in some of my vlogs that hasn't come out yet because I'm just a little behind. I came back from camping, hit the ground running with work, and here I am. So, but that is Too Old for This by Samantha Downing. Now, this was another arc on Lindsay's Kindle. Should I have gone back and like found some older titles? Sure, but I'm gonna, take the chance and read an arc that she has. And I have read Samantha Downing before and enjoyed them, very much so. But this book shocked me. It was so good. I absolutely loved it. We have a main character who is in her 70s, and I think that was what I was hesitant about before because she is a serial killer. She's not convicted, but she is a known serial killer. And so I was like, am I gonna like this with a 70-year-old character? Loved it. She's got a little bit of humor mixed in, but there are definitely like hooks and twists. And within the first chapter, this happens right away. She's already murdering someone again. So I remember sitting down and I ended that chapter, and I even ended chapter 2 because chapter 2 continued, and I was like, well, that's one way to start a book. So really, really enjoyed it. She was basically like let off from actually being convicted of like 3 different murders because they didn't have enough to prove that she did it, even though, she's telling you she did it. And so this book is definitely graphic in some areas, but at the same time funny, and you are just going to keep kind of like, where is this going to go? So with the thrillers, I don't want to give you too many details, but I think this one comes out either more towards the middle or end of August. Put it on your pre-order list. It's so good. And then the final book that I read off of Lindsay's Kindle, actually it's not the final book, but it's just the final book I finished in July. I am currently reading another one off of her Kindle, but and actually if I didn't say that I gave Too Old for This 5 stars, I did, but another book that I gave 5 stars, I just put it on my Instagram story last night, amazing, is The Lies They Told by Ellen Marie Wiseman. Now, I know I've read one other book by her, and that was The Lost Girls of Willowbrook, and I really liked that one too. This book is basically the story of, I don't even want to call it a movement, but like how eugenics affected the United States. And this is one of those stories, and I feel like this has happened to me with a couple books I've read, that I had no idea that some of this went on, because these are things that we don't teach in history. I had the same feeling reading The Women by Kristen Hanna, and all of the things that we just don't learn about Vietnam. This was the same thing. So we're set in, I want to say it was set in the 1930s. Let me just double check because I've got my device here. Yeah, rural 1930s in Virginia. We have a woman who has immigrated from Germany to go live on this farm. And actually, she wasn't even supposed to come. Her mom and her brother, tickets were purchased to come over by this distant family relative to basically help on his farm, help with his children, etc. She had bought her own ticket. She had a child out of wedlock and bought her own ticket and was just hoping that this man would accept her. Well, right in the beginning of the book, her mother and brother are not accepted, and they are getting deported back to Germany, and she stays. And we have this process of, and the research that Ellen Marie Wiseman must have done into this whole eugenics period of time was wild, because she is teaching you through this character what happened even in just the rural part of Virginia in the 1930s all the way through the 1950s. The sterilization of people, calling them feeble-minded, all the different tests and things that they did to even determine these things. It is just wild. There were points in this book that I was so angry, and I wasn't angry at the writing, but I was angry at characters that Ellen Marie Wiseman wrote. Like, because you're reading this and thinking, how could people have treated other humans like this? And now it has caused me to go down this rabbit hole of looking more into this. I'm currently halfway through watching a PBS series or PBS documentary about the eugenics movement and how it led into the Holocaust. Like, it is absolutely wild. And I think it I can't even talk. It gets compared, everyone thought that, Hitler, developed these ideas, but in reality, they started a lot sooner. And so I love books that can send me, into that kind of that spiral of research. I know Lindsay has said the same thing. But this one, it just came out the last week of July. I highly recommend you pick it up because it is just so, so eye-opening. And I think that will for sure be one of my best books of the year. So those are all the books that I read in the month of July. I am almost finished with one for August already. And yeah, we'll see what else we get into. I am I'm not back at work. I don't go officially back to work until the last week of August, but I'm in and out for meetings and doing a lot of online work, but we shall see what I get up to. I have 2 books I need to finish before next week for 2 different book clubs, but there's that. What did you end up reading in the month of July? Anything that I should add to my list? I think for today's emoji, if you're not feeling, super chatty to put something in the comments, let's put a star, because I did have, 2 5-star rated books this month, which is super exciting. So as always, if you like this video, feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.